Jones, Chartered Surveyor, author and property investor, and I'm dealing with some questions which I've had from subscribers to the Property Teacher. Great questions, keep them coming in. I love answering your questions. Now, I've been dealing with some questions which somebody called Peter has sent in, and Peter's been asking, really, what he's essentially asking in the questions he's sent in is, how do I get started in buy-to-let if I don't have an awful lot of money and I don't have a very high income? And it's a great question, and I'm sure there's a lot of potential investors or would-be investors or want-to-be investors who find themselves in the same predicament. But let me just sort of like blow the whole thing wide open by saying the overall answer to the question, if I was going to sit down with Peter one-to-one, for example, and have a chat with him over a cup of coffee, and it may take a couple of hours to actually get to the point where we can decide what it is he wants to do and how he's going to do it. But what I'd probably be saying to you, Peter, is if you want to get into property and you don't have an awful lot of money saved, and if you don't have a very high income, then jumping in using conventional buy-to-let finance is probably not the way to start. There are so many different ways that you can get started in property now without relying upon conventional bank finance, which is how I would term buy-to-let lending. There's so many different activities that we can do in property without relying upon conventional bank lending. Now, this is only a very short video. I mean, I could run whole days teaching on this kind of thing. So let me just give you some very quick bullet points to think about in this. There are a number of techniques which we could generally classify as being no money down. Now, you may have heard the expression no money down. There are some property experts who will tell you that no money down is impossible or that it's illegal. Not true. It depends on how you classify no money down. Now, I'm talking about taking control of a property using very little of your own money. So, for example, things like lease options or using delayed completions, for example, which are quite advanced techniques. I haven't really got time to go into that now in this video. As I say, I could train for days on those, but they are techniques which are available to anybody who doesn't have very much money of their own. Rent to rent, for example, which is essentially renting a property off a landlord and then subletting it at a profit. That's available as a technique to anybody who hasn't got very much money to get started. The use of other people's finance is a big one. Now, nowadays we talk about JV finance. When I first started in property, nobody was talking about JV finance. Now many property investors are using JV finance. What does it mean? Well, in this day and age when interest rates are so low, there's a lot of people who are cash rich but who are time poor, who perhaps don't have much knowledge of property. They can provide the finance because the returns they're getting from their money in the bank is very, very poor. If you have no money but you have the time and the inclination and you get yourself educated so you have the knowledge, you can form a JV together, a joint venture. You can source the properties for them, they can finance them, and then you can split the profits or split the rent or however you want to structure the deal. Again, we could teach for days and talk for days about that, but that's another way forward that you could consider. So just because you have not much money doesn't mean you can't get started. One last thought. What about sourcing deals for people who have money, who want to get into property? You could source deals, get yourself educated, learn where the good property deals are, and then you can pass the deals over to somebody who can take them off your hands and charge them a fee. All of these things are possible without having to jump in and doing conventional buy-to-let investing from the very start. So I hope that gives you a few ideas. Keep the questions coming.